The stars had never seen anything like Admiral Taemin's fleet. 50,000 warships moved through space like a metal storm. Each ship was bigger than a mountain. The largest one stretched for 50 kilometers, their hulls covered in weapons that could crack planets in half. Admiral Taemin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. His 6 eyes studied the small blue world ahead. Earth. Such a tiny planet in such a boring part of space. His people called this area the Outer Rim, where nothing important ever happened. "Admiral," said his second officer, "we are now 2 days from the target world." Taemin nodded. His gray skin rippled with satisfaction. This would be conquest number 2847 for the Galactic Dominion Empire. In 3,000 years, his people had taken over 40,000 star systems. They ruled 2,000 different alien species. No one had ever stopped them. The humans would be no different. On Earth's moon, Dr. So-Young watched her screens with growing worry. The alien fleet was massive beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. She worked at Luna Station, Earth's main space research center. Her job was to study alien life, but she had never expected to meet any. "Captain J-Ho," she called into her radio. "Are you seeing this?" Captain J-Ho commanded Deep Space Monitor Station 7. It was hidden in the asteroid belt, watching for exactly this kind of threat. "I see them, Doctor. I'm sending the alert to Earth Defense Command right now." Far away in the Dominion capital, High Counselor Wu Jin reviewed the intelligence reports about Earth. The humans were primitives. They had barely left their home system. Their ships were tiny metal boxes that burned chemical fuel. They still used nuclear weapons like children playing with firecrackers. "They fight among themselves constantly," reported his intelligence chief. "They have no unified government. No energy shields. No plasma weapons. This will be the easiest conquest in decades." Wu Jin smiled with his wide mouth full of sharp teeth. "Good. Admiral Taemin grows restless. He needs an easy victory to keep the fleet happy." Back on Earth, emergency meetings filled every government building. President Kim sat in the Global Defense Council chamber, listening to reports from around the world. General Hae-jin, commander of Earth's military forces, stood beside a massive holographic display. "The alien fleet is bigger than our entire space navy," General Hae-jin said. "Each of their large ships could destroy all our satellites in minutes. What are our options?" Asked President Kim. "We fight," said General Hae-jin simply. "We may lose, but we fight." Dr. So-Young had a different idea. She opened a communication channel and broadcast toward the alien fleet. Her message was simple: "Welcome to Terran space. Please state your intentions." The message traveled through space for hours before reaching Admiral Taemin's ship. When his communication officer translated it, the entire bridge fell silent. Then Taemin began to laugh. "They claim this space belongs to them," he said to his officers. "These primitives think they own the emptiness between stars." His laughter grew louder. "How amusing," Admiral Taemin sent his reply immediately. It was the same message the Dominion had used for 3,000 years. "Surrender your world and submit to Dominion rule, or face complete destruction. You have 72 standard hours to comply." Dr. So-Young received the message and felt her heart sink. She had studied the radio signals from this part of space for years. She knew what happened to worlds that refused the Dominion. They became silent. Forever. She called Captain J-Ho again. "They want us to surrender in 3 days. What if we refuse?" J-Ho asked. "Then they destroy everything. Every city, every person, every living thing on Earth." Captain J-Ho was quiet for a long moment. "Doctor, there's something you should know. Something the public doesn't know about Earth's defenses." "What do you mean?" "Meet me at Luna Station. There are people you need to talk to." 6 hours later, Dr. So-Young found herself in a room she had never seen before, deep inside Luna Station. Captain J-Ho was there, along with General Hae-jin and a man she didn't recognize. "Dr. So-Young," said General Hae-jin, "meet Engineer Dong-hyun. He builds things that officially don't exist." Engineer Dong-hyun was a thin man with tired eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept in years. "Doctor, what I'm about to tell you must never leave this room. Earth is not as defenseless as it appears." "What do you mean?" "For 50 years we have been preparing for this day. We knew aliens existed. We knew they would come, and we knew they would not come in peace." Engineer Dong-hyun activated a holographic display. It showed the solar system, but not the way Dr. So Young had ever seen it before. Hidden bases appeared on asteroids. Secret shipyards orbited behind Jupiter's moons. Weapon platforms hung in space, invisible to normal sensors. We've been building in secret, Dong-hyun continued. Our public space program is just for show. Our real fleet, our real weapons, our real defenses, they're all hidden. Dr. So Young stared at the display. How is this possible? How did you hide all of this? We learned from watching them, said Captain Jae-ho. The Dominion has been conquering worlds for a long time. They always follow the same pattern. They study their target, find their weaknesses, then attack. But they only see what they expect to see. General Hyejin pointed to the display. The Dominion thinks we're primitive because we want them to think that. Every signal we send into space, every piece of technology we use in public, it's all carefully designed to make us look weak. But we're not weak, said Engineer Dong-hyun quietly. We're just careful. Admiral Tae-min, meanwhile, was growing impatient. His fleet had moved closer to Earth. His sensors showed him exactly what he expected: a few dozen small human ships, primitive satellites, and basic defense platforms. Nothing that could threaten even his smallest escort vessels. Sir, said his tactical officer, the humans are moving some of their ships. It looks like they're preparing to fight. Tae-min laughed again. Let them come. Their largest ship is smaller than our escape pods. This will be over quickly. Dr. So Young sent one more message to the Dominion fleet. Admiral Tae-min, we understand your empire's power, but we ask you to reconsider. Humanity wishes to coexist peacefully, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. Admiral Tae-min's response came back within minutes. Your time is almost up, primitives. Prepare to witness the might of the Dominion. Tomorrow we will show you what happens to those who refuse our generosity. As the message ended, Dr. So Young looked at the men around her. Are we really ready for this? Engineer Dong-hyun smiled for the first time since she had met him. Doctor, they have no idea what they're flying into. No idea at all. Outside in the cold darkness of space, two fleets prepared for battle. One flew openly, proud and confident, their weapons charging for the kill. The other waited in silence, hidden among asteroids and behind gravitational shadows, ready to defend their home. The Dominion Empire had conquered 1,000 worlds, but they had never fought humanity before, and humanity had been preparing for this fight their entire lives. Dr. So Young worked through the night, trying to understand the alien language. The translation computer struggled with words that had no human equivalent. Concepts like total submission and species absorption appeared again and again in Dominion communications. She had 12 hours left to find a peaceful solution. Any progress? Asked Ambassador Yoon Seo, entering the communication center. Yoon Seo had been Earth's top diplomat for 20 years, but she had never faced anything like this. I'm learning their language, Dr. So Young replied, not looking up from her screens. But I don't like what I'm finding. Admiral, they've done this before. Many times. Ambassador Yoon Seo sat down beside her. Tell me. Their computer databases are partially open. I can see records of other worlds they've conquered. They always offer the same choice, surrender or die. But surrender doesn't mean survival. Dr. So Young showed her the data. World after world had chosen surrender, hoping to save their people. None of those civilizations existed anymore. Their populations had been scattered across the galaxy as slave labor. Their cultures had been erased. Their planets had been stripped of resources and turned into military bases. They don't want to rule us, Dr. So Young said quietly. They want to erase us and take our planet. Meanwhile, Admiral Tae-min was reviewing his battle plans. The human fleet had positioned itself between Earth and his advancing armada. 47 small ships against 50,000 Dominion warships. It would be a massacre. Admiral, said his science officer, our deep scans of their ships show interesting results. Explain. Their hulls are made of simple metal alloys. No energy shielding detected. Their weapons appear to be kinetic projectiles and primitive nuclear devices. But sir, there's something strange. Admiral Tae-min turned to face him. What? We cannot detect their power sources. Our sensors show their ships running on what appears to be chemical batteries, but that's impossible. Ships that size would need much more power just to move. Perhaps they're even more primitive than we thought, Tae-min said dismissively. Focus on the battle plan. But the science officer wasn't finished. Sir, there's more. Our gravitational sensors are detecting anomalies throughout this solar system. Mass concentrations that don't match what we see visually. Asteroids, Taman said. This system is full of space rocks. Yes, sir, but some of these asteroids are moving in patterns that suggest artificial control. Admiral Taman paused. In 3,000 years of conquest, the Dominion had learned to be careful. Surprises usually meant casualties. What do you recommend? We should probe their defenses first. Send a small force to test their capabilities. High Counselor Wu Jin, watching from the capital, had different ideas. He opened a direct communication to Admiral Taman. Admiral, the Emperor grows impatient. He wants this conquest completed quickly. No delays, no careful approaches. Crush them immediately and move on to the next target. Admiral Taman reluctantly agreed. Orders from the capital could not be questioned. On Earth, General He Jin was coordinating humanity's real defenses. In hidden bunkers around the world, teams of engineers made final preparations. Commander Boram led the actual defense fleet, ships that existed only in the deepest shadows of space. All stealth units report ready, Boram said into her headset. Her ship hung motionless behind Jupiter's largest moon, completely invisible to Dominion sensors. Around her, 300 similar vessels waited in perfect silence. These weren't the primitive ships the Dominion could see. These were humanity's real warships, built with technology that the aliens couldn't even detect. Their hulls bent light around them like water flowing around stones. Their engines manipulated gravity itself, leaving no heat signature for enemy sensors to find. Engineer Dong Hyun was in his control center, deep beneath Antarctica's ice. Around him, screens showed weapon systems that had been 50 years in development. Scientist Kyung Ho worked beside him, monitoring gravitational field generators that could tear apart anything made of normal matter. How long until they reach firing range? Dong Hyun asked. 6 hours, replied Captain Mi Young from her command post inside what looked like an ordinary asteroid. My platforms are ready. We've been tracking every ship in their fleet for the past day. Dr. So Young made one last attempt at communication. She had spent hours learning enough of their language to speak directly to Admiral Taman without computer translation. Admiral Taman, she broadcast, I have studied your people's history. I understand your power, but I ask you to listen carefully. Humanity has also studied the galaxy. We know things about the universe that your empire has not discovered. Please allow us to share this knowledge peacefully. Admiral Taman received the message with surprise. The primitive had learned their language remarkably quickly, but her words meant nothing. Knowledge could be taken from conquered worlds just as easily as resources. Human, he replied in his own tongue. Your ability to learn our language is impressive, but you misunderstand the situation. The Dominion does not need your knowledge. We take what we want from the ruins of your civilization. Dr. So Young tried again. Admiral, what if I told you that your empire has never encountered a truly advanced civilization? What if I told you that every world you've conquered was among the weakest in this galaxy? This time, Admiral Taman was genuinely intrigued. Explain. Your empire controls 40,000 systems and rules over 2,000 species. That sounds impressive until you understand that there are millions of star systems in this galaxy alone. You've conquered less than 5% of one galaxy's weakest civilizations. Admiral Taman's officers looked at each other nervously. Their empire was the strongest force they had ever known. The idea that greater powers existed seemed impossible. Even if that were true, Taman replied, it changes nothing. You will surrender or be destroyed. Dr. So Young's voice became very quiet. Admiral, I want you to understand something important. Humanity is not asking you to spare us because we are weak. We are asking you to leave because we are strong and we don't want to hurt you. The communication ended there. Admiral Taman stared at the empty screen, disturbed by something in the human's tone. She had not sounded desperate or afraid. She had sounded sad. Ambassador Yoon Seo presented humanity's final position to the United Earth Assembly. Representatives from every nation sat in emergency session, knowing that the next few hours would determine whether their species survived. The Dominion will not accept peaceful coexistence, she reported. They have never allowed any species to remain independent. Their choice is simple, total surrender or total war. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would fight. As Admiral Taman's fleet moved into attack formation, Engineer Dong Hyun powered up weapons that had never been tested in actual combat. Scientist Kyung Ho activated gravitational manipulators that could bend space itself. Commander Boram's invisible fleet began moving into position. Dr. So Young sent one final message. Admiral, you still have time to turn back. We do not wish to fight, but we will not surrender. Please reconsider. Admiral Taman's response was immediate. Your time is up, humans. All ships, open fire. Show these primitives the price of defying the Dominion. 50,000 alien warships turned their weapons toward Earth. Energy cannons that could vaporize mountains began charging for the kill. In a few minutes, the battle would begin. But as the Dominion fleet prepared to fire, their sensors began detecting something impossible. The empty space around them was suddenly full of gravitational anomalies. Massive objects were moving closer to their fleet, objects that hadn't been there moments before. Admiral, his science officer called out urgently. Something is very wrong. Our sensors are showing. He never finished the sentence. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and the Dominion Empire was about to learn that sometimes the prey is more dangerous than the predator. Admiral Taman's fleet opened fire with the power of 1,000 suns. Plasma cannons that could melt continents unleashed their fury toward the small human fleet. Antimatter torpedoes, each one capable of destroying an entire city, streaked through space like angry stars. The human ships vanished. Direct hit confirmed, reported the weapons officer. All enemy vessels destroyed. But Admiral Taman was frowning at his displays. Something felt wrong. The human ships had disappeared too cleanly, too perfectly. In 30 years of conquest, he had never seen matter simply cease to exist like that. Run deep scans of the impact zone, he ordered. The results came back within minutes. Sir, we're detecting no debris. No metal fragments, no energy residue, no organic matter. It's as if those ships were never there. Before Admiral Taman could respond, his science officer shouted a warning. Admiral! Massive gravitational distortion forming directly above the fleet. Space itself began to bend. Stars appeared to move as gravity waves rippled through the void. Then, emerging from what looked like empty space, came objects that defied everything the Dominion knew about warfare. They weren't ships in any sense that Admiral Taman understood. They were asteroids, but asteroids that moved with purpose and precision. Dozens of rocks, each the size of a mountain, drifted toward his fleet with impossible grace. Weapons lock on those asteroids, Taman commanded. Destroy them before they reach us. The Dominion fleet fired again. Energy beams that could crack moons struck the approaching rocks. Nothing happened. The asteroids absorbed the plasma fire like sponges soaking up water, their surfaces rippling with energy that should have vaporized them. Captain Mi Young smiled from her command center inside the largest asteroid. Her platform had just absorbed enough energy to power Earth's entire civilization for a year. The energy was now being converted into something the Dominion had never encountered. All platforms report successful energy absorption, she announced to her crew. Beginning gravitational field manipulation. What happened next broke every law of physics that the Dominion understood. The space around their fleet began to change. Gravity stopped behaving normally. Ships that had been flying in formation suddenly found themselves being pulled in impossible directions. Admiral Taman watched in horror as one of his dreadnoughts, a ship weighing billions of tons, was lifted and turned upside down as easily as a child's toy. The mighty vessel's engines screamed as they tried to compensate for gravitational forces that changed direction every few seconds. How are they doing this? He demanded. His science officer was staring at readings that made no sense. Admiral, they're manipulating gravitational fields directly. That should be impossible with any known technology. Commander Boram's invisible fleet chose that moment to reveal itself. 300 ships materialized out of empty space, appearing around the Dominion fleet like ghosts becoming solid. These vessels looked nothing like the primitive craft the aliens had seen earlier. They were sleek and dark, their hulls seeming to absorb light itself. They moved without any visible engines, sliding through space as smoothly as fish swimming through water. And they were armed with weapons that Admiral Taman's computers couldn't even identify. New contacts, screamed the tactical officer. 300 ships, unknown configuration, surrounding our position. Where did they come from? Taman roared. Unknown, sir. They weren't there 30 seconds ago. Commander Boram opened a communication channel. Dominion Fleet. This is Commander Boram of the Terran Defense Force. You are completely surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Admiral Taman's response was immediate. All ships engage the new targets. Destroy everything that moves. The Dominion fleet turned its guns on Boram's ships. Plasma cannons fired at point-blank range. The energy beams passed right through the human vessels as if they were made of mist. "Admiral," the weapons officer reported, "our shots are passing through their hulls without making contact. They appear to be intangible." But the human ships were far from helpless. As Admiral Tamin watched, one of Commander Boram's vessels approached a Dominion cruiser. The human ship seemed to merge with the alien vessel, passing through its hull like a knife sliding through butter. Moments later, the Dominion cruiser simply stopped. Its engines went dark. Its weapons powered down. Its lights went out. The ship was still intact, but it was completely dead. "What did they do?" Taemin whispered. Engineer Dong Hyun's voice came through the communication system, calm and professional. "We disrupted the atomic bonds holding your ship together at the molecular level. The hull still exists, but the machinery inside has been reduced to its component atoms. Your crew is unharmed, but their ship will never fly again." Across the battlefield, the same thing was happening to ship after ship. Human vessels would approach, phase through Dominion hulls, and leave dead ships drifting in space. No explosions, no violence, just instant and complete technological failure. Admiral Taemin tried to order a retreat, but discovered that retreat was impossible. Scientist Kyung-ho had been busy while the fleet was distracted. Space-time itself had been altered around the battlefield. The Dominion ships were trapped in a gravitational bubble that they could not escape. "Admiral," his navigation officer reported, "our engines are running at full power, but we're not moving. It's as if space itself is holding us in place." Dr. So-young's voice came through the communication system. "Admiral Taemin, I need you to understand something very important. Every weapon we have used against you so far, every gravitational manipulation, every molecular disruption, every space-time distortion, represents approximately 3% of our actual capabilities." To prove her point, she gave a demonstration. A single human vessel, no larger than a Dominion escort ship, approached Taemin's flagship. The massive dreadnought, 50 kilometers long and armed with enough firepower to destroy planets, was simply moved. The human ship didn't fire any weapons. It didn't even touch the Dominion vessel. It just reached out with invisible forces and gently pushed the enormous warship aside, repositioning it with surgical precision. Admiral Taemin felt his ship being moved like a chess piece. The sensation was beyond humbling, it was terrifying. His flagship, the pride of the Dominion fleet, was being handled like a toy by forces he couldn't even see. "How?" he whispered into his communication system. "How is this possible?" Engineer Dong Hyun answered him. "Admiral, your empire has spent 3,000 years perfecting energy weapons and strong materials. You build bigger guns and thicker armor, but you never learned to manipulate the fundamental forces that hold reality together." Captain Mi-young added, "We learned to control gravity, to phase matter through different dimensions, to alter the flow of time itself. While you were conquering primitive worlds, we were studying the universe." High Counselor Wu Jin, watching the battle from the Dominion capital, was speechless. His mighty fleet, the terror of 1,000 worlds, was being systematically disabled by an enemy that treated physics like a suggestion rather than a law. "Send reinforcements," he ordered desperately. "Send everything we have." But Admiral Taemin knew that more ships would only mean more defeats. These humans weren't just technologically superior. They were operating on a completely different level of understanding. It was like bringing swords to fight against the forces of nature itself. Dr. So-young's final communication of the battle was simple. "Admiral, we want you to understand that we could have ended this fight in the first 30 seconds. We chose not to because we hoped you would recognize your situation and surrender. We do not wish to destroy you. We wish to educate you." Admiral Taemin looked around his bridge. Half his fleet was disabled. The other half was trapped in a gravitational prison they couldn't escape. His weapons were useless. His shields were meaningless. His empire's greatest achievement had been defeated by an enemy that seemed to treat the laws of physics as optional suggestions. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Taemin considered the possibility that surrender might be the wisest option. Admiral Taemin's surrender signal had barely finished transmitting when Dr. So-young's response arrived. "Admiral, before you make any final decisions, there is something you need to see, something that will change how you understand this galaxy forever." High Counselor Wu Jin, Monitoring from the Dominion capital authorized a full data link. If these humans had information that could explain their impossible capabilities, the Empire needed to know. What came through the communication channel was a star map unlike anything the Dominion had ever seen. It showed their galaxy, but with details that their most advanced sensors had never detected. Entire regions of space that they had thought empty were revealed to contain massive civilizations. Historian Na Young's voice accompanied the display. Admiral, Counselor Wu Jin, what you are seeing is a complete survey of our galaxy. This map represents 200 years of careful observation by human deep space exploration teams. The map zoomed in on the Dominion Empire. Their 40,000 systems appeared as a small cluster in one spiral arm of the galaxy. It looked impressive until the scale changed, revealing that their entire empire occupied less than 2% of the galaxy's total space. Your empire, continued historian Na Young, exists in what we call the shallow zone. It's an area where less developed civilizations naturally cluster together, seeking safety in numbers from the more advanced species that control the deeper regions of galactic space. Admiral Taemin studied the map with growing unease. What do you mean by more advanced species? Commander Seok Jin, leader of Earth's deep space exploration fleet, answered, Admiral, in the past century we have made contact with 47 different galactic civilizations. Your Dominion Empire ranks dead last in technological development. The communication paused as this information sank in. The Dominion had always believed themselves to be the apex of galactic evolution. The idea that they were among the weakest species was almost impossible to accept. Analyst He Wan began displaying detailed comparisons. Let me show you what real galactic powers look like. The Transcendent Collective, for example, gave up physical bodies millions of years ago. They exist as pure energy and can manipulate entire star systems as tools. They consider matter-based life forms to be an interesting but primitive stage of evolution. The display showed images of stars being moved through space like marbles, arranged into geometric patterns that served purposes beyond Dominion comprehension. The architect minds, Heywan continued, reshape reality at the quantum level. They can alter the fundamental constants of physics within their territory. To them, the difference between your most advanced technology and a stone tool is meaningless. More images appeared, planets that phased in and out of existence, space where light traveled backwards, regions where time flowed in circles. And then there are the eternal gardeners, Heywan said, her voice becoming almost reverent. They have existed since the universe was young. They tend to galaxies like farmers tend to crops, nurturing the development of life across cosmic timescales. They have been watching the evolution of intelligence for billions of years. Admiral Taemin felt his worldview crumbling. If such powers exist, why have we never encountered them? Dr. So Young answered, because humanity has been protecting you from them. The silence that followed was deafening. High Counselor Wu Jin finally managed to speak. Explain. Commander Seok Jin brought up another star map, this one showing the movement of various fleets over the past 1,000 years. For centuries, we have been monitoring your expansion. Every time your scouts approached a region controlled by truly advanced civilizations, we redirected them. We made those areas appear empty or dangerous, guiding your empire toward safer territories. We've been herding you like sheep, added analyst Heywan bluntly, keeping you in the parts of the galaxy where you could survive. Admiral Taemin's tactical mind began to understand the implications. You mean our empire's expansion pattern was not our choice? Partly, Dr. So Young replied. You chose to conquer. We chose where you would do your conquering. We made sure you only encountered species that were weaker than you, so you would never face complete annihilation. The true scope of humanity's intervention became clear as more data flowed through the communication link. Dozens of Dominion exploration fleets had been subtly diverted over the centuries. Sensor readings had been falsified to make dangerous regions appear worthless. Entire star charts had been altered to keep the Empire away from the galaxy's true powerhouses. Why? Asked High Counselor Wu Jin. Why would you protect us? Philosopher Yu Jin answered, because we believe that every species deserves the chance to grow beyond their worst impulses. Your empire exists because we have been shielding it from forces that would have eliminated you centuries ago. But your protection comes with a price, added Admiral Junho, Supreme Commander of all Earth forces. You can continue your path of conquest, in which case we will be forced to contain your expansion permanently. Or you can accept our offer to join the real galactic community, not as conquerors but as students. The communication link displayed coordinates for a series of worlds that the Dominion had never detected. These are our embassy worlds, explained Counselor Rena. They exist in neutral space where species make the transition from conquest-based civilizations to collaborative ones. The process isn't easy, but it's necessary for survival in the real galaxy. Admiral Taemin looked at his disabled fleet, then at the star maps showing powers beyond his imagination. What happens if we refuse your offer? Dr. So Young's answer was gentle but terrifying. Then you continue to exist in the shallow zone, forever contained, never allowed to contact the advanced civilizations that would destroy you. You become a permanent ward of humanity, protected but powerless. And if we accept, then you begin learning. You discover that strength isn't measured by how many worlds you can destroy, but by how many civilizations you can help flourish. You learn that the universe is far stranger and more wonderful than conquest can ever reveal. High Counselor Wu Jin was reviewing the data with his science advisors. The evidence was overwhelming. Every technique the humans had demonstrated, gravitational manipulation, matter phasing, space-time distortion, was beyond current Dominion understanding. And according to the star maps, this was primitive technology compared to what the true galactic powers possessed. How long would this transition take, he asked. Counselor Rena replied. For some species, decades. For others, centuries. It depends on how willing you are to abandon the belief that might makes right. Engineer Dong Hyun added a practical consideration. Admiral, I want you to understand something about your current situation. We could have destroyed your entire fleet in the first minute of contact. We could have eliminated your homeworlds before you ever knew we existed. Every ship in your empire could be disabled within hours if we chose to do so. But we didn't choose that, Dr. So Young continued. We chose to capture your fleet intact, to communicate with you, to offer you alternatives. This choice between destruction and education is the fundamental difference between conquest-based and cooperation-based civilizations. Admiral Taemin was a soldier who had spent his entire life believing in the power of superior weapons. But what he had witnessed today went beyond military technology. These humans possessed an understanding of reality itself that made his empire's achievements look like children playing with toys. What guarantee do we have, he asked slowly, that you won't simply eliminate us once we're no longer useful? Philosopher Eugen's response was immediate. The same guarantee we've given to every other species we've guided away from the path of conquest. We have no interest in ruling you. We have everything we need. Our strength lies not in what we can take, but in what we can give. The weight of the decision was enormous. Admiral Taemin had to choose between his empire's entire way of life and survival in a universe far more complex than they had ever imagined. As he considered his options, Dr. So Young made one final observation. Admiral, the strongest species in this galaxy aren't those who can destroy everything in their path. They're the ones who choose not to. The silence stretched across space for long minutes. Admiral Taemin sat in his command chair, staring at star maps that rewrote everything he thought he knew about the universe. His officers waited nervously, understanding that the next few words would determine the fate of their entire civilization. High Counselor Wu Jin spoke first from the Dominion capital. These claims are difficult to accept. How do we know this information is accurate? Dr. So Young had expected this question. Commander Seok Jin, please show them Observation Post Omega. The star map shifted, focusing on a region of space that the Dominion had always assumed was empty. What appeared was a space station unlike anything in their databases. It was massive, larger than their biggest cities, and it hung motionless near a collection of strange, geometric structures. This is one of our deep space observation posts, Commander Seok Jin explained. It has been monitoring the activities of the Transcendent Collective for the past 60 years. What you see around it are their construction projects. The geometric structures moved as they watched. Massive rings of pure energy rotated around artificial stars. Streams of controlled matter flowed between platforms that defied conventional physics. The scale was beyond impressive. It was godlike. Those energy rings, Seokjin continued, are larger than your entire home solar system. The Transcendent Collective is building something, but after 60 years of observation, we still don't understand what it is. Admiral Taemin studied the images with growing dread. If these beings could manipulate matter on such a scale, his entire fleet would be less than an inconvenience to them. Have you made contact with them? We tried once, Analyst Haywan replied. 20 years ago, we sent a diplomatic probe to their nearest outpost. They examined it for approximately 30 seconds, then sent it back with a message. What did they say? When you have grown beyond physical existence, we will speak. That was all. The communication link shifted to show another region of space. This one occupied by the architect minds. Here, reality itself seemed to be under construction. Planets flickered in and out of existence. Space was folded into impossible shapes. Light traveled in spirals and loops. The architect minds are reshaping the fundamental structure of space-time in their territory, explained Analyst Haiwan. They're building something that exists in 11 dimensions simultaneously. Our best scientists can barely understand 3-dimensional space, let alone 11. Have you contacted them? We sent a probe there as well. It came back, changed. The metal had been converted into a substance that shouldn't be able to exist according to our physics. The message stored in its computer had been replaced with mathematical equations that describe reality itself. We're still trying to understand what they were trying to tell us. Admiral Taemin was beginning to understand the true scope of his empire's insignificance. And the Eternal Gardeners? The star map pulled back to show entire galactic regions, vast networks of energy-connected star systems across thousands of light years. Planets moved in carefully orchestrated patterns. Even the formation of new stars seemed to be guided by intelligent design. The Eternal Gardeners control roughly 30% of this galaxy, Dr. So-Young said quietly. They have been shaping the evolution of life and intelligence for billions of years. Every major species in the galaxy, including humanity, exists because they allowed it to happen. Including the Dominion? Asked High Counselor Wu Jin. Especially the Dominion. Your aggressive expansion serves a purpose in their design, though we don't fully understand what that purpose is. The implications hit Admiral Taemin like a physical blow. His empire's greatest conquests, their proudest achievements, had been permitted by being so advanced that they might as well be gods. The Dominion wasn't a great galactic power. They were galactic insects allowed to exist at the whim of their betters. Why show us this? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Philosopher Yu Jin answered, because understanding your true place in the universe is the first step toward wisdom. Your empire has been living in a bubble of ignorance, believing yourselves to be titans when you are actually among the smallest fish in an infinite ocean. But ignorance isn't permanent, added Counselor Rena. Species can grow beyond their limitations if they're willing to admit those limitations exist. Commander Seok Jin displayed another set of coordinates. These are the locations of species that have made the transition successfully. The Keth Collective gave up conquest 40 years ago, and now focus on artistic creation across multiple dimensions. The Vorth Union abandoned their warrior culture and became explorers of theoretical mathematics. The Zen Assembly chose to dedicate themselves to the study of consciousness itself. What did they gain by giving up conquest? Admiral Taemin asked. Knowledge, Dr. So-Young replied. Power beyond anything that weapons can provide. The ability to understand and interact with the universe on levels that conquest-based civilizations can never reach. Engineer Dong Hyun added a practical perspective. Admiral, your empire's most advanced technology is based on principles we mastered 300 years ago. The weapons we used against your fleet today represent our basic defensive capabilities. Our actual research projects involve manipulating the fundamental constants of reality, creating stable pocket universes, and developing forms of existence that transcend physical matter. And you would share this knowledge? With species that have proven they can use it responsibly, philosopher Yu Jin confirmed. The universe is full of wonders that conquest can never reveal. But those wonders are only accessible to civilizations that have learned to build rather than destroy. High Counselor Wu Jin was conferring with his advisors, but Admiral Taemin could see the fear in their communications. The Dominion leadership was realizing that their entire civilization was built on a foundation of ignorance and false superiority. What happens to our military? Taemin asked. Our warriors. Our entire culture is based on strength and conquest. Admiral Junho answered, strength can be redirected toward protection instead of conquest. Warriors can become explorers, investigators, defenders of the weak instead of oppressors of the helpless. Culture can evolve. The transition isn't easy, Counselor Rena admitted. Many species struggle with abandoning the beliefs that once defined them. But the alternative is permanent stagnation in the shallow zone, forever cut off from the greater galactic community. Dr. So Young made the offer explicit. Admiral, we are prepared to release your fleet and allow you to return to Dominion space. You can report what you've learned here and let your people decide their future. But you need to understand that this is likely the last chance your empire will have to choose its own path. What do you mean? The Eternal Gardeners are patient, but not infinitely so. Your empire's aggressive expansion is approaching the boundaries they have set. Soon, they will intervene directly. When that happens, the Dominion's fate will be decided by beings who view your entire civilization as we might view a colony of ants. The weight of the decision was crushing. Admiral Tae Min had to choose between his empire's pride and its survival, between the familiar comfort of conquest and the terrifying unknown of cooperation. As he struggled with the choice, historian Na Young offered one final piece of information. Admiral, there is something else you should know about humanity's relationship with your empire. What? We could have stopped your expansion centuries ago. We could have prevented every conquest, saved every world you destroyed, but we didn't, because we believed your empire needed to learn these lessons on its own. The blood on your hands is there because we chose not to prevent it. Admiral Taemin stared at the human representatives on his screen. You allowed us to kill billions of beings? We allowed you to make your own choices, Dr. So Young replied sadly. Even when those choices were terrible. Because wisdom that is forced upon a species never lasts. It has to be chosen freely, earned through experience and suffering. Now you face the same choice that every species faces eventually, philosopher Yu Jin concluded. Growth or stagnation, cooperation or containment, wisdom or destruction. The choice is yours, Admiral. But choose carefully. It may be the last choice your empire ever gets to make.